Well, good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Bill.
We're here at FNC Morning View. We're heavily in the spring, and we're discussing the Fed, mortgage rates, the economy, lots of things.
Yeah, I mean, the weather's heating up.
It is heating up, although this morning is very cool.
Well, not everywhere.
Not everywhere, but in Oxford it was very cool this morning.
Well, you know what's not heating up is inflation. Inflation is
It's a surprise to most people. It's a big surprise to most people.
Well,
okay, so simply put, inflation is too many dollars, or whatever your currency is, chasing too few goods, right? So the price of the general price goes up.
Right, or you could call it the lack of demand.
Okay, well, you could, all right, okay.
And or how much demand you have, and what people have been speculating for some time recently is that the Fed is going to stop its program of buying all these mortgage-backed securities, which have been to try and build up the economy.
Well, Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Board of Governors, said once he sees unemployment go down or commercial employment go up to some pre-specified number, and they've given some ranges, as well as inflation starting to tick up,
right,
which is the point you're making.
Exactly.
Then we're going to see the Fed starting to tighten. And one of the ways they tighten is to reduce their purchases of mortgage bonds,
right,
through quantitative easing.
Exactly. And so there's been recently a lot of speculation that the Fed is getting ready to start reducing that.
Well, there's also a lot of speculation that their signals to the market were like way off.
Well, they've been very confusing because at the minutes of the last meeting would imply that they're about ready to start thinking about backing off. But then the inflation numbers come out and they're as low as they've ever been.
It's a limbo. How low can you go?
Exactly, and they're the lowest that they've ever measured. And I think about 1.2% for core and only 0.7% in total.
It's like prices are flat and expected to be flat, right?
Right, and what the Fed is trying to do is to get inflation at about 2%. So we're not even, we're about half of where it needs to be.
Well, let's talk about the flip side of that. Let's talk about deflation. I mean, there was some concern on Greenspan's watch, at the end of his watch, and at the beginning on Bernanke's watch, that we would have deflation, asset prices going down in nominal terms.
And there's still some concern about that, particularly recently with the way that the prices have been slowing down.
Why is that so bad?
Well, think about it. Our economy depends on having people go out and buy things, right? So if you thought that the price was going to go down tomorrow,
you short the market. You don't want, and the policymakers don't want people to short the market.
No, I mean,
they don't
want people waiting. They want people buying right now.
Exactly.
And we just have had an absence of demand. There's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. People are just not out buying.
Well, let's contrast this market with the Japanese market. We had the Japanese market going strong. They lowered rates. And we had the Japanese market going strong, and all of a sudden, in 2 days, we've had big sell-offs in Tokyo.
Yeah, there's there's probably a different analysis of that, or rationale of that, for every economist that's out there.
Well, do we lead? Okay, so do we lead them, or are they leading us in this case?
No, they're actually.
Is it totally independent?
Totally independent right now.
No relationship.
Well, of course, no relationship. but by and large, what they're trying to do is, for many years, they've been very conservative. They've been and they've had actually some deflation. They've had a number of problems. They can't get their economy going.
It's been stagnant
for a long time, and so under the new administration, they've decided that they're going to go after building up the economy, and so they're making all sorts of pronouncements that they're going to do things that kick the economy up. And initially, the response was very positive. Big
market went way
up. And now people aren't sure what's going on. They don't know if maybe they're losing some confidence in what was being said, and they're saying they're getting they're backing it off of it, or maybe there's just some profit taking going on.
Maybe some arbitrage.
It could be, and so there's not really sure what's really happening right now. But with the market, anything that happens in 2 or 3 days can be in any direction, any time, for any random reason.
The question was the long-term trend.
Exactly.
And so if we talk about the U.S., if we look at the U.S. experience, one of the things you hear policymakers talk about is avoiding the Japanese experience.
Oh, sure.
So they want to avoid that 1990 to 2010 experience, roughly.
Right.
It's where we had flat asset prices to declining asset prices. In nominal terms, in real terms, you had clear deflation.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the things that people have been arguing about, is that there has been a group of people who have been wanting austerity. Let's reduce the size of the deficit. Let's cut government spending. Let's do all of these things, which is exactly what Japan did. All right. And then you've got another group that says, now's the time to increase government spending. Do everything you can to increase demand and build up the economy. We did not do either extreme. We did something sort of in the middle, okay, and we've got sort of a middle result.
Well, and all the free market people believe that elections are a vote on policy like this.
Right, right.
They believe it's a vote on policy of, are you going to be for spending or austerity?
Right.
And that occurs essentially every 2 years in the congressional elections at the federal level.
Well, yeah, there was some indication that there was some support for the increased spending, but not enough to get over the current blocking that's going on in the House. So right now we've got a mixture. What's really driving the economy down right now, what's really holding it down, is state and local government spending. It has just continued to decrease because the state and local governments are constrained to have balanced budgets. And when the revenue is reduced because of the lack of sales tax, the lack of activity, what happens then is that they have to reduce their spending, which then amplifies the fact that there are fewer jobs in their local area, which generates fewer taxes, and it just goes spiraling down.
Well, there is another theory emerging, and that is, and it was in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend, around lack of risk-taking by Americans. In other words, in finance, there's this concept of risk and return, that if you take risk, you should get a commensurate return.
Right.
Or conversely, if you want a lower risk, you should get a much lower return.
Right.
Well, the idea that the article puts forth the idea that we're not taking risks. Either the opportunities are not there, or we don't have the predisposition or proclivity to take that risk.
Well, you mean in terms of the investment?
That's right.
And people putting in money. That's true. But one thing that argument misses is that if you are sitting on a bunch of money and you're trying to put it someplace where it's going to grow, you're probably not going to put it in some place where there's no demand for whatever product you're putting it into, right?
That's right.
All right, and so one of the problems we've had right now is that there is no demand. Okay, what are you going to invest in? Well, if there's no demand, if the market is flat, if it's not growing, you're not real inclined to put it into that particular area because you're really looking for a return. You may be willing to take a risk.
Strong risk-adjusted return.
Exactly.
As opposed to buying treasuries.
Right. And so that's been one of the problems, is that there just hasn't been something out there. We talk to people on Wall Street all the time, and they're looking for where can we put this money to get some kind of return. We need some revenue, we need some income.
Many of them are going from mortgage-backed securities, residential mortgage-backed securities, to whole loans because they get a better yield.
Exactly.
And there's not sufficient flow of the residential mortgage-backed securities that give them the kind of yield they need.
Exactly. And until we get the demand cranked up in this country, it's just not going to happen. And that's what the big problem is right now. However, one good piece of news is that residential investment continues to climb, and that's always a good sign for improving the economy.
Well, we're out of time. This is FNC's Morning View. I'm Bill Rayburn with Bob Dorsey. We'll continue this later this week at the NARI convention in Atlanta. For now, we're signing off. Have a good day, Bob.